Welcome to the Mike Clegg YouTube channel, and wow, what a week it's been in football this week. So in the topical football section we're going to talk about pitch invasions, Ronaldo's magic, Scorsese at Oldham and the Champions League draw. I would like to welcome Pat McGibbon with us this week.
Thanks, Clegg. Good to see you.
Yeah, Pat was a player at Man United with myself. We also played together at Wigan, and then Pat went over to play in Ireland again and ultimately became a manager over in Ireland as well, didn't you, Pat?
That's right, yeah. Good.
So, well, like I say, what a week. We'll start off with the Man United game last week. Again, we was going for the record. Ollie was looking for another away win against Arsenal. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out quite that way, and it's probably one of the worst games I think Man United have played over the recent history. It was quite disappointing, 2-0 loss. Pat, did you manage to watch that game?
I've seen clips of it at the minute because of all the work that I do with Train to Be Smart. A lot of it's evening work, so I've just seen the clips of it. But I'm sure Ollie was disappointed. But that said, you know, he's had such a great run and he's did such a great job since he's went in.
Yeah, the game didn't sort of go to plan. I don't think there's a few changes. Pogba was back in the team. Scott McTominay was out of the team. It just felt like the buzz of the Wednesday night win. Ultimately, there was always going to be a come down, and we knew that was always going to be a tough game against Arsenal. Obviously, both teams are fighting for that fourth spot to be in the Champions League again for next season. So it's quite close, 4th and 5th place, Man United and Arsenal. So how do you see that run into the end of the season? Do you think Man United have got a chance of coming 4th?
Yeah, I still think that they have. You know, you're totally right. I mean, the PSG game in particular, there's a lot of energy used up, and you know, it was such a great result. But from that, then obviously going into another big game, and you know, against one of your rivals, it was always going to be difficult. But you know, the one thing I would say about Ollie and Mike, you know, they certainly, there seems to be that feel-good factor back, and that's what they need. They need that positive momentum going into the last part of the season.
So when you was at Man United with myself, what Mike Phelan was around then, was he?
Yeah, Mike was there when I first joined the club, 92. Yeah, Mick was around and played in the reserve team whenever I was playing there as well. And I have to say, a really great character in the changing room. He gave the young lads loads and loads of advice, and I'm sure he's a great, you know, shoulder for Ollie to lean on.
Did it surprise you when he became a coach at Man United back in the day? I was quite surprised when he come back working with the reserves and stuff. And but obviously he's kicked on. I know Mike really well now, and you can see that he brings a certain amount of stability to the team and to the club.
I mean, I think even within that reserve team, and you know, obviously he was playing within the first team as well. But when he came down to play reserve team games, he always gave great advice. And always remember, there was, you know, you had Brian Robson, you had Steve Bruce, you had Mike Phelan, and you know, on a Friday afternoon after the training had been done, or even on Monday afternoon, those more experienced characters would have sat in with a gaffer, and you know, that's where the learning process went on. So it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, you look back then to the likes of Steve Bruce and Brian Robson. That's, to me, that was like the team who my father used to support, and we look back now, don't you, always with rose-tinted glasses on. I suppose many of the people watching this now, you think, wow, that was a great era, and then you sort of compare the likes of who was the best, Brian Robson or Roy Keane type of feel, and you know, what's your opinion on that? So you're a little bit older than me, and you played for Man United first team, so you was in amongst everything what was going on over them years, and you know Roy as well, don't you? Yeah.
I mean, look, I mean, I was very fortunate, especially the last couple of years, sort of 95 through to 97. Obviously I made my debut, and my debut didn't pass off the way that it should have. But that said, in my final year, 96 to 97, I was getting back in the first team squad, played the pre-season friendlies, and things were going great. But you know, I sometimes show, especially the kids back at home, you know, that Man United squad of 96, 97, and obviously I stood between David Beckham and you had Eric Cantona, you know, two obviously massive characters. You've Roy Keane within that, you've Steve Bruce within that, you've so many leaders within that squad, and it was difficult not to actually learn from them, you know, because even if you were just playing the game, they always give you that little bit of advice.
Yeah, it must be great when you're relating them stories back to the young lads in. Where is it you're based now? Northern Ireland, Newry, around there?
Yeah, we're based in Lurgan and Craigavon in Northern Ireland. So,
but to relate them stories, and obviously these are the stories of people's heroes from back in the day. It must be great. And again, the work you're doing. Just tell us a little bit about the work you're doing.
Yeah, well, certainly with Train to Be Smart, it was founded in 2013. So. Tragically, my brother took his own life the first year that I went over to Man U. So I was obviously settling in. I had the whole, settling into the digs along with settling into the club. And about 8 months in, then my brother took his own life. So that was something that was difficult to deal with. Obviously, at the homesickness. But as I say, in 2013, I set up a project, and the project promotes positive mental health through sport. We've 14 affiliated teams at the minute. 200 boys and girls. We could have much more than that if we had the coaches to deal with them, and it's something that we're working towards, and we know that we're not there yet, but it's very important for us, more about sort of character building skills and resilience. And and I know that football is a difficult game, and it's a business game, so there's a lot of pitfalls along the way.
Well, that's very interesting. Pat comes over from Ireland. He's obviously trying to create his own football career, and you lose your brother like that. It must be devastating. You're still, homesickness, all these type of things. But Pat's doing a great cause there, so Train to Be Smart. So please look that up and try and help that, especially if you're over there in Northern Ireland, and obviously English people. It's a great foundation Pat's put together. But moving on more to the football this week again. So I mean, it's been crazy. You talk about people, the way they think, attitudes, just common sense. There was 2 or 3 incidences of pitch invasions this week, and probably the biggest and the most highlighted one, and quite rightly, was the disgraceful act was on Jack Grealish. The derby game there, Birmingham against Aston Villa, and for whatever reason, a fan sees it as fit or to run on the pitch and just absolutely whack him, full-blown whack, and it was absolutely disgrace. What was your take on that? Thinking about where football's gone through crowd control issues and hooliganism, getting a bit safer, more like a family sport, to suddenly seeing that is quite shocking. And I imagine there's parents out there who saw that as an absolute disgrace. Yeah,
I mean, look, it was. There's no place for it in the game. There's definitely no place for it. I mean, as well as obviously the Jack Grealish incident, you had the one up at Rangers, and you had also obviously with Chris Smalling there at Man U. Now, first of all, Jack Grealish's family and friends, and sometimes certainly supporters. I think sometimes it's that notoriety with them, and there's no place for it. I'm sure that if they were walking down the street and seeing the same player, they wouldn't be just as quick to stand up and place a punch in their face.
I mean, I saw it, and it was a disgrace from many different angles, in the sense you come on to punch a player, which again is ridiculous. And on a football pitch, it should be sacrosanct. There should be no invasions, of course, and the players should be able to feel safe to do their craft and their art. Just because they actually play for a certain football team, players change teams all the time, so that's ridiculous. I just felt like that guy was doing that just to get himself some type of notoriety, some type of fame. But what I really found disgusting, worse than what he's got, because he's gone to prison for that, and so it should be 5 times longer, and I think he's got 45 days in prison or something. But the fans, the actual Birmingham fans, clapping him on the way off, I just found that sickening.
It is. There's no doubt about it. And then what happens is, especially when it gets off with sort of 45 days, then other people see it because they see themselves on TV. They think, oh, this is great. And I've said this before, the problem with common sense is it isn't that common anymore. So the biggest problem is that somebody's going to maybe look at that and they're going to try and mimic it. So the harder they hit them, I think the better it is. I agree. I think that copycat thing is potentially something what might happen. So again, it should have been stamped on big time and definitely caught the game. He was lucky it was only a punch. What if it was a knife? What if Jack Grealish and the players, the Birmingham players as well, laid into him? What would the public outcry be there? So yeah. I think that the lad actually dealt with it reasonably well himself. It's just a shame it happened. So yeah, I mean, imagine if he had a knife, Pat. Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, and I know that on the field we're competitors, regardless of when you're playing for a club, and you're on that pitch for the 90 odd minutes. We're competing, but after that, you know, footballers, we go and shake hands, and a lot of them throughout the clubs, you know, they get on with each other. But then you have this, and you can only class him as an idiot, who gets onto the pitch, you know, to go and hit a player who's just doing his job.
And what's ridiculous, like you've already mentioned, it happened up at Rangers as well. Maybe there's a different element regarding that, maybe political or that type of side. You probably know a bit more about that than myself. And then United as well, with Smalling being pushed. So it just was a bad week in the sense of people doing silly things. You know, I don't know if you've got any last points.
Yeah,
on
well,
that?
look, I mean, I understand that, and we understand that emotions are high when it comes to games, but it's okay emotions being high, but when it comes to the stage where it's actually, you know, the health and safety and safeguarding of players is, you know, is not being looked after, then something serious has to be looked at.
Yeah, so that falls on to the next couple of points we got really. We know we got the Champions League draw coming up quite soon, and we want to try and cover that with what we're doing here, trying to get the timing right. It'll be interesting. But in the UEFA League as well, we had obviously Arsenal got through and Chelsea got through. But did you see the celebration when Arsenal beat Rennes 3-0?
No, again, especially at the moment, it's a lot of it comes.
Aubameyang scores, but he goes behind the board and he pulls out a mask and puts on a Black Panther mask from the film, and he makes a bit of a scene. So again, we're talking about players potentially doing something which is now seen as you shouldn't be doing. I think he got a yellow card, and there's been a lot of cases in the past where players have been wearing different names on the tops or putting masks on and this type of stuff. So does that bring personality, or does that actually cause dissent in a certain degree? What's your thoughts with that?
Well, to me, and again, I'm going back to around your time, Cleggy, where there was so many characters and so many winners within a group. It's okay having an individual character, and you know, and I know that the likes of Eric Cantona was just, you know, a very, very, you know,
we're not advocating character. Players should go no, kicking fans out.
Not at all. But when it comes to it, you know, they still have to understand team as well, and I think that part of it has gone to a certain extent. I think, you know, that it's more personal and what they can do in terms of, you know, from a looking after their own brand almost, you know, and it's not about that. I mean, it should be first and foremost about the team, you know. I think it should be, and certainly I know a few weeks back Roy Keane came out and he was doing an interview and he was talking about the players and you know, what they were doing in terms of other things outside the game, and he says, you know, no, it's important that until the game's finished, until, you know, their career's finished, that they concentrate on that, and that's typical Roy. You know.
Well, that's quite true, and a good friend of mine, he might even watch, you know, when you talk about concentrating on the game, I don't know whether you saw it, you probably didn't, but Everton versus Newcastle, Jordan Pickford, you know, he's a top goalkeeper, but he sort of got sucked into the emotion of the game, and this is where professionals have to stand away from getting drawn into that emotion. Of course, it's very emotional for the players as well as the actual fans, but you know, I think Everton went 2-0 up. Jordan got himself into a couple of pickles, but then ultimately they ended up losing 3-2 away at Newcastle, and obviously the Newcastle-Sunderland connection was very much in the emotions of the game. You could see some of the reactions Jordan did, and again, it just shows that if you're not concentrating on the job at hand, and I call this called win the moment. Each time you're doing it, whether it's an interview now or whether you're working on something at your job or you're with your children, you'll make sure you maximise that moment in time. Once your mind starts wandering, this is when you can sort of fall into issues where concentration levels drop and you can actually let the team down. Yeah,
and especially in a position like Jordan's as well. I mean, I've often said this, I was fortunate enough to see Peter Schmeichel going through, and Peter was the best goalkeeper obviously I ever came across and seen and trained with, but in terms of the other goalkeepers that I've seen, you know, like Roy Carroll, whenever I seen him at Wigan when he was coming through as a kid, was, you know, was exceptional, and still, you know, unfortunately he got injured just lately, but Roy was a tremendous keeper, and I always said I think he had the potential to be almost as good as Peter. He was that good. Sometimes his thing was whenever the ball was coming in, he had already thought about his next task, and that was probably the difference between him and Peter, was that supreme concentration with Peter and doing the task.
And obviously we both know Roy well, but there's one particular occasion where the ball come miles in, it popped out of him and actually went in the goal, and that was difficult for him to swallow. But again, for young goalkeepers out there, for parents, concentration levels within games is massively important. Good, so we're going to move on to the next section now, which is, it links into the draw, which will be happening soon, but the Angel and the Devils, which I do every single week. And I had lots of options this week, but the Angel, for me, this is because I'm slightly biased with my own history, my father's history, but we're going for Ronaldo. Ronaldo scored an incredible hat-trick for Juventus to drag back that 2-0 deficit which they was losing against Atletico Madrid. They won 3-2, and Ronaldo for me he's the ultimate player. There's a lot of debate, we was discussing it before, who's the best, Ronaldo or Messi or the other up and coming players, but at his age, with what he does consistently, with his mindset regarding being the best he can be at every segment of the game is truly, for me, something which all young players should definitely try and attain and go for that. Even if you've got bags and bags of talent like Messi, and I'm sure Messi works very hard on his game, but he's not quite as vocal as that. Even if you've got bags of talent, still do everything right, whether it's your nutrition, with your recovery, working with sports scientists, strength and conditioning coaches. So Ronaldo, one, because you're just a brilliant player, and hopefully one day we might see you back at United. Two, because of the work my dad did with him at United. I just think he's just top draw. Have you got any opinions on Ronaldo?
Oh, look, I mean, an absolute top class player, there's no doubt about it, and for him to have gone, from a kid starting out obviously at United to where he's got to now and continuing to do it even at his age, it's such an example to the kids, as you say. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. And regarding the actual Devil this week, it's got to be the people pitch invasions. It's ridiculous. It's got to be stamped out. I don't know what the authorities are going to do regarding how do you actually stop it. The stewards have a big job anyway. There's thousands of fans. If you get one or two idiots, we don't want to go back to having the fences up and pinning people in. Obviously there can be health and safety issues regarding that. So yeah, for me, it's ridiculous to do a pitch invasion, and I think they should get a lot more in as a sentence, banned from football for life at all pitches. Definitely go to prison. And I can only imagine, in the streets afterwards, that somebody like that should be made a fool out of.
Certainly, and I think at times, Clegg, maybe what they need to do is the authorities need to look at the supporters and maybe get them in, and whether that's supporters clubs within it, and make sure that they are told under no certain circumstances that what to do.
Right, so the Champions League just coming through. Just got it on my phone here. So Liverpool just been drawn out of the hat. I'm not sure whether they missed one or two, by the way.
Appearances in our competitions in 2016 and 2018.
Liverpool Man United, would you fancy that draw?
Yeah, I would fancy it, yeah. Take anybody.
See who we've got.
FC Porto.
So Liverpool got Porto.
Right.
So you probably want that draw for Liverpool. I think Liverpool would be really pleased with that.
They'll definitely be pleased with that one. Yeah, if you look at the other teams involved.
Would you say Porto's possibly the weakest team in the group?
Yeah, well, you would have to. You would certainly have to look at it and say, out of all the teams there, yeah, there was a team that probably Liverpool, Man U would have been looking to get.
Who would we want Man United to definitely not get? Who would you not want to get?
Look, I mean, it's always a difficult one, but Barcelona, just because of the history, and as much as you don't know what way people will respond on the day, just for the whole history, you wouldn't want Barcelona.
Exactly. Well, Tottenham have just come out of the hat now, and Tottenham are going to play against. They do it very slow here. Manchester City. I thought Manchester, I thought it was going to be Man United. So Manchester City versus Tottenham, two English teams. Obviously, there's 4 qualified to go into the last 8. So Tottenham against Manchester City, definitely an English team's going to get to the semi-finals, eh?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that game, Pat?
Well, I think just at the minute, I would have to say I have to feel strongly for Man City.
Yeah.
I mean, Tottenham have did terrifically well, but Man City, if you look at the player for player, and certainly in terms of the squad, you have to see Man City going through.
So we've just got Barcelona, who've just been drawn, and I think there's only. Do you know who this is going to be, Pat?
Yes.
So Barcelona have just been drawn against Manchester United. Wow, what a draw that is. So we missed the first one, so that's Ajax versus Juve. So you probably think Ronaldo, Juventus will be pleased with that, but Man United against Barcelona, oh man, that's definitely not what we wanted, is it?
No, it's definitely not what we wanted, but then I suppose PSG wasn't what they wanted at the time as well, so you have to look at it like that, and as I say, Ollie's got that feel-good factor back. You know, he could only look basically game at a time at the minute, so it's there, it's reality now, so he has to get on with.
Well, the one thing for sure, if Man United are going to win the Champions League this year, they certainly took the hard route, so obviously we wish the lads all the very best against Barcelona. Ollie and Mick have got something to really start thinking about now, so that's be an incredible game to watch. I suppose it'll be a massive spectacle on TV, and it'll be, you know, a great thing to watch, and who knows, miracles to happen, eh?
Yeah, and I'm sure everybody's going to look forward to it.
So moving on then, so that's a Champions League draw, which was interesting. Just to go through that again, it's Ajax against Juventus, it's Tottenham against Man City, and it's Man United against Barcelona, and the last one was Porto against Liverpool. So good opportunities for some English teams there, and obviously we want Man United to give Barcelona a good doing over there, so we'll see how that goes. Moving on to this weekend, it's the FA Cup quarter-final. Man United have got Wolves. I suppose looking at the games we've had, that's a very winnable game, get us into the semi-finals. So Man United against Wolves, I'm sure there'll be good opportunities. I think it's looking like there's a couple of injuries. Lukaku might not be playing. There's maybe a chance for Martial to be back in the team fully. There's talk of Mason Greenwood getting an opportunity again as a young player, he's a 17-year-old player. So it just gives opportunities. There's so many games, isn't there, Pat? You know, potentially young fringe players getting opportunities to play because of big games like Barcelona, where maybe you want to save your best players to. Yet these games are massively important. Yeah,
and I mean it used to be, I suppose, in our time where the likes of the Coca-Cola Cup and games like that were the ones where the kids went in. But there's just so many games now that, and the one thing I will say about, you know, Ollie is he's prepared to put the kids in. It doesn't look like he's scared of putting anybody in, and he's giving them a go and seeing how it goes. But definitely it's a winnable game in terms of the Wolves game.
Definitely, we'll see how they go on tomorrow. And just to finish, I just want to congratulate my brother Stephen. He's just had his baby, so congratulations to him and Steph. And they called the baby James, and that's in respect to my grandfather who died last year. So Jimmy Bardsley. So Stephen, it's a great thing to do, and I can't wait to give little James Clegg a cuddle this afternoon. So congratulations, guys, and we'll speak soon.